Coffin Dance, right? The first thing that I think about, it's just like, I'm not thinking of like who's actually going to be on the team, right? And then you actually look at the roster and you're like, okay, as an AWC fan, this is awesome. This is a roster that I really do want to see. And I feel like these two teams going head to head, it's just one of those matchups where you really want to see what these players who have been competing for such a long time are going to be able to do when they play against each other. And now we're going to be jumping into the Grand Arena. This is an elimination series. Coffin Dance, or we Rave you, who will be able to march on forward and who will be sent to home where they currently are on this online tournament. Who's going to stay home? The gates are now open.
I think you said you thought it was going to be a Cleavemere, and I was like, Mercedes is like the best, one of the best Desterlocks, and if Thasia is as hype as you guys are talking about, why would they not play Mage Lock? And game one, they're going to be playing that Mage Lock Mistweaver. This has been a dominant comp. Will Coffin Dance, the Warrior Demon Hunter, be able to overcome these odds, stay on target? Right now, the positioning not too great between Mercy and the Mage. They're standing next to each other, which means Joe and Trent can switch targets very easily. We see a pre-War Banner on the Poly, but that War Banner got sniped off instantly. Unfortunately, the Polymorph just broke. Now they're going to switch to Lontar instead, or they're just going to drop him. Huge pressure coming out right now from Mercy. Lontar desperately rolling back around the box. Joe trying to retreat to safety, activating that lingering Psychic Shell as well. Coffin Dance survived the Dark Soul onslaught. But next time that's up, will they be able to do the same?
Yep, and it does look like Desia is going to be playing the Memory of Lucid Dreams as well as the Hyperthread Wrist Wrap. So anytime we see a combustion coming in from this mage, it is going to be absolutely horrifying. Trent's going to be having to, find a purge on that if he can. That would be great with Devour Magic. If not, then he's going to be dealing with a ton of damage. Good pressure here from Coffin Dance as Life Cocoon is forced out. Leanne will be able to keep Desia alive in the situation. Greater Power Blast still going to be traded out. And outside of like the big combustion one-shots or the Dark Soul one-shots, I feel like this is going to be one of those games that we likely see go for a long time set. I mean, right now we have Lontar interrupted. Joe Fernandez is going to be taking a little bit of damage, but once that interrupt fades, he should be able to recover.
All right, it's looking like he wants to just stay on target. Running that all-important Master and Commander on the Warrior, Joe Fernandez is reducing his Rallying Cry down to a 1-minute cooldown, and it also gets 15% more maximum health, along with an Azurite trait, Moment of Glory. That Rallying Cry gets an extra 20,000 health, and it lasts 12 seconds longer. So you thought Life Cocoon and Vitality Conduit was a good rotation of cooldowns? You put that Warrior in with a 1-minute Rallying Cry, you got a third one to press amidst that rotation. That's why these Warrior Mistweaver comps are so powerful. They just have this indefinite defense chain. Lontar currently stunned up. They drop a War Banner in between to try and stall out any follow-up, and it has scared them away. Lontar will recover with the Vitality Conduit, not costing him any mana for that trade. However, he just rolled out into midfield. Bit peculiar. Now he's just getting feared twice. Joe gonna Spell Reflect and stop that Greater Pyroblast from slamming into his face for now. Ring of Frost trying to get sniped onto the corner by Thasia onto Lontar. That Succubus pet for Mercy could be deadly here if Lontar isn't careful and doesn't avoid it, because he's trying to roll out and keep up with his teammates, but every time his teammates overextend, Mercy immediately moves towards Lontar. Lontar has to intercept him, but he gets seduced. In the meantime, Thasia gets blasted by a Drestigath, but Leanne isn't crowd controlled. He can easily deal with that. I love Mercy playing that intercept. Thasia is going to go back and forth across the midfield, and then anytime that he drags Joe Fernandez and Trent out in the open, Lontar has to chase them to heal them. He can't heal them from 80 yards away. And as soon as Lontar moves in, then Mercy will intercept and fear or seduce with the Succubus. And right now, Coffin Dance, they're focused on defense. They're just avoiding an engagement. They know that Dark Soul is available, that purple icon, the skull below Mercy's health frame. When that starts glowing, it means it's activated, and every Chaos ability cast while it's activated is almost gonna kill somebody, basically. And then Thasia's Combustion, the orange icon below his health frame, that is also now available because there's no timer on it. If that starts to glow, you know that Thasia is going to be a big threat. And if they both activate at the same time, you might just get erased. So Coffin Dance are taking a risky gamble playing out in midfield right now.
Definitely are. Trent's going to be taking a bunch of damage, but of course, he will be running the Lingering Psychic Shell. That's a great defensive trinket choice. against the Mage Warlock. We're seeing a lot of these players opt to run it on the tournament realm. They have access to basically any gear that they want. So picking up that defensive tank trinket, especially against double caster damage, is going to be very powerful. And unfortunately, for Thasia and Mercy, they weren't able to get too much damage rolling with that combustion, but Dark Soul still is available for Mercy if they can get crowd control. Meanwhile, though, Leanne's going to be caught into an intimidating shout, and Testia is actually going to be taking a decent amount of burst here. With Vitality Conduit, though, should easily be able to recover.
All right, both teams recovering. Mercy is still holding on to that Dark Soul, perhaps waiting for a moment to go after Lone Tar. He's in a leg sweep. War Banner gets dropped to stop any sort of follow-up. These War Banners from Joe have at least stalled swaps to his healer quite a few times at this point. However, now Leanne is rolling across the map. So Thasia's the target. He wants to run away from Lone Tar. Leanne wants to follow him as well. And then Lone Tar runs out in the open. He's going to get seduced like right now. Tren looks to be the target, but it's very difficult to kill a Demon Hunter without a stun. And there's not really a reliable stun outside of leg sweep. So I'm not a big fan of attacking the Demon Hunter at this point. Makes a lot more sense to attack the Warrior because you can force him to go into defensive stance and he's going to be doing 20% less damage. Where it's going after the Demon Hunter, you're not really stopping too much damage. He's just healing through it with Leech. You're not going to tax the mana too much, but they seem to be content attacking the Demon Hunter for now. We have just kicked into dampening 5.5 minutes in. Thasia snipes a Polymorph. Tren has reverse magic, but he's choosing to hold on to it. There haven't been any cooldowns activated or no leg sweeps yet, so maybe that's why he wants to hold on to it. He charges over to stun Mercy. They're doing a split strategy. This is what I actually like to see from the double melee. This way you can disrupt both Greater Pyro and Chaos Bolt, but now they both decide to connect onto the Mage. Jumping into battle stance. Mercy could decide to activate Dark Soul while Joe is taking more damage in the battle stance. Is he going to go for it? He's been sitting on the Dark Soul for some time. Maybe he wants to keep it in his back pocket as a threat so that Leanne can drink because Leanne's mana is starting to fall behind. Because anything else has basically meant that he's missed a rotation of Dark Soul. He could have gotten 2 Dark Souls in the amount of time that he's held this one. Leanne gets stunned up into an Imprison on his break. There's Dark Soul. Can Joe Fernandez stop Mercedes' Dark Soul in time?
That is going to be the combustion as well. Big damage on Joe as he uses Heroic Leap to get behind the pillar and recover. That's going to buy Lone Tar just a moment to breathe. I mean, this is all the offensive cooldowns coming in from We Rave You. I really want to see Coffin Dance just chill out for a moment. Joe's going to have to use his Lingering Psychic Shell, but Tren and Joe, they want to get the damage rolling, feeling confident they can survive. But Lone Tar now into a Seduce. Tren could be in some trouble. This is a big throw from Coffin Dance. I don't know why they pushed out. Tren is still just dangerously low as Tesla is trying to take him down. Darkness is forced out as well. And I feel like Coffin Dance, they were really impatient. Tren, this might just end up costing him his life in this game. Lone Tar connects the heals, but man, what a mistake from Coffin Dance.
Full Polymorph. Tren is playing reverse magic and he hasn't pressed it once, I swear. He could get this Polymorph right now, but he's choosing not to. He manages to sit through it, but I really don't understand why he's sitting on reverse magic for so long, unless it's exclusively for an Obsidian Claw when his healer is crowd controlled. Maybe that's the game plan there with the reverse magic, but I mean, right now he's gotten no value out of it. And now caught in a Polymorph himself. Joe is trying to force a Cauterize from Thasia single-handedly, charging in with the Sharpened Blade. Good coordination with Tren, imprisoning the Mistweaver during Stormbolt on the Mage. Drestigath right at the end. Huge damage. That's going to force Leanne to activate the Life Cocoon. Mercy is now open, though. He fears Lone Tar. He lobs out a couple Chaos Bolts. Greater Pyroblast is actually cast on the Lone Tar, so We Rave You, not afraid to go after the healer. Lone Tar may need to be careful. Leanne is pushing into midfield. He has leg sweep available. Is Leanne going to go for a paralyzed leg sweep in the near future? He could. I mean, Tren's already low. They get the full Polymorph. Leanne has leg sweep. Is he going to move in? Vitality Conduit landed before the Polymorph, so they're waiting for Vitality Conduit. They try and get a Ring of Frost onto Lone Tar. They don't find it. Lone Tar actually decides to just run into it while he's on Diminishing Return, but could get feared. He gets stunned up. Dark Soul available. Combustion gets popped. Big damage in from Thasia. They shred that Life Cocoon like butter here. Lone Tar ducking around the corner. He needs to deal with a counterspell from Thasia still. His Safeguard triggered, I believe, so he may not have a lot of defense left outside of that. Joe suddenly dipping low. Dark Soul is active. They need to stop Mercy at all costs, but he snipes a full fear. He gets pummeled on the Chaos Bolt. Joe saves that just in the nick of time, but his Die by the Sword is starting to fade. His health is starting to wane. Lone Tar does not have Life Cocoon for some time. Joe is still playing out in the deep end of the swimming pool here, but he didn't bring a Life Vest. He needs to be careful he doesn't drown. Polymorph now into Lone Tar. Double stun follow-up. Insane pressure here from We Rave You. Joe disarmed. He's going to try and line of sight while he doesn't have his axe in hand. Trend now gets blasted. Coffin Dance holds strong at the pillar, but will dampening backfire on them.
I mean, it's just one of those things where if you fall behind against the Mage Warlock in dampening, it's almost impossible to recover through multiple interrupts. Now Seduce being cast on Lontar as well. Joe could be in some trouble. If he gets too low, might not have too many ways to recover here. The Mortal Coil does come in, but it is going to be Thacia who gets low. Is of course going to be that Temporal Shield and the Life Cocoon traded out by Leanne. But if you look right now at mana, Leanne is actually a lot behind. I really want to see Leanne go for drinks. When we see Tren and Joe Fernandez and Lontar are all grouped up behind the pillar, kind of running away and playing defensive, that's when we need to see Leanne actually sit down, go for a drink, completely recover their mana, because it seems like at this point, Coffin Dance, they're going to have a mana lead, and they might be able to sustain that as this match goes forward.
Let's see what they can get done here. Moving into 30% dampening. No combustion, no dark soul. Coffin Dance need to take this opportune moment to push for Cauterize. Big Warbreaker, sharpened blade, but Vitality Conduit is going to just be there to save the day. Thacia not going to take any damage. Leanne's mana has been an increasing problem throughout this game. He's going to need to drink at some point, and maybe he's going to use the next Dark Soul to do that, but I do want to see them set up a drink. Chaos Bolt's being lobbed in here onto Tren. Thacia, though, taking a beating. Mercy's trying to protect him with fears onto the Demon Hunter, mashing that fear button over and over. Leanne is now pushing forward to get crowd control onto Lontar, I believe, but he actually gets crowd controlled first. Good counter engagement by Lontar. Leanne breaks out of the stun to re-engage onto Lontar with a leg sweep, but he gets war bannered. That war banner might be the only reason Lontar stays. It is the only reason Lontar stays alive. Beautiful war banner from Joe there.
Yeah, very nicely done. Keeping Lontar alive, buying him just the millisecond that he needed to get that Life Cocoon in order to survive. But now, I mean, look at this. We Rave you. Leanne, his mana is not doing well. And I think at some point in dampening, we might see Joe and Tren actually go after Mercy as well. That Destruction Warlock becomes kind of a liability and a vulnerability the later the game goes. But the problem is, if you leave the mage alone for too long, you can really get punished by those greater power blasts. So they're continuing to go after the mage, and they actually get the ice block. Now, all of a sudden, Coffin Dance, they're looking pretty good. I mean, we're at 38% dampening. Thacia, he's got no ice block. Of course, he still does have that Cauterize, but, I mean, they might be able to shred through that, especially if they have, you know, the Drestigath trinket available. Very scary moments here. Tren, though, in the meantime, getting hit by a Chaos Bolt and ultimately gets taken down. Lontar, he just needed 1 second on that Life Cocoon. Mercy and Thacia really capitalizing on that situation, but honestly, that game was a lot closer than I expected. I really expected the Mage Warlock to kind of pull a lot more ahead, but they managed to keep it really close.
Is the UI not updating, or did Tren not press reverse magic once for 10.5 minutes or 11 minutes?
That's a very good question. Luckily,
He had it. He was talented into it.
So, I mean, I feel like he could have got at least a little bit of value at some point in that game, but it was never used.
Hey, sometimes you have a button and you don't remember to use it. You know, sometimes it's ice blocked, sometimes it's the unmute, sometimes it's the unmute button.
I knew it was coming.
Bringing that back to
Sometimes, Zico, don't laugh so fast. Sometimes it's the unmute button. Sometimes we just don't hit our buttons. Sometimes we don't hit our buttons. Let's actually talk about this series, though, just a little bit more. Let's put it under a microscope. Why do we see Coffin Dance falling down here, Z?
Honestly, I think both teams played a great game. Coffin Dance had a lot of opportunities on the mage. They had good swaps, good pressure. But ultimately, I think we Rave you have a bit of a compositional advantage. Nagarand Arena obviously is going to favor them a little bit more as well, because they are the wizards here. And just clean goes, like that swap on Lontar that really set up that darkness. And then also in the end, they got that CC chain on Lontar with the fear, and then they were able to secure kills. And one thing that we talked about, if you guys remember, Mercy was in one of our AWC Cups earlier last season, and he was that warlock, if you guys remember, who kept swapping his pet. Do you guys remember that? It was a warlock who would summon a succubus, seduce someone, and then he would summon an imp and dispel something, and then he would summon a fell hunter and kick something. He's doing the same thing here, and it's a pretty interesting playstyle. I think it's very effective.
I do really like a bunch of people in chat typed "grats on your echoes." It's actually so toxic and it's so good. Like it is just the best insult that I think has ever existed in WoW PvP. It's just calling someone an echo farmer when they lose. But Zico, when we actually do look ahead as what could happen in this series, first actually let's look at one of your favorite plays from this first game, and then from there we'll start to look ahead at what can happen in future maps, Zico.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a really, really clean setup. And that's what these guys have been doing. You know, we Rave you. They were ultimately going for the Demon Hunter with CC on the Mistweaver, or they were setting up swaps on the Mistweaver. And here they had just swapped to the Mistweaver a little bit earlier. Now they secure a Fear. They secured the Mortal Coil onto Tran. They have the damage to back it up as well. And one thing I want to throw to Van Rookie here is Tessia was running the Greater Pyroblast with Lucid Dreams and Mechagon Bracers. Do you remember that build that we kind of were talking about with Wealthy Man last week? Playing the same setup for C9, and we were saying that maybe we want to see him do a little bit more with his combusts. So Tessia was actually running that build that you recommended. So I wanted to get your take on that. Do you think it was good, or?
I think actually the build I was talking about last week, the kind of unique one, is actually playing Firestarter and Greater Power Blast. I don't think he was running, but he was playing.
Oh yeah, no, he wasn't running Firestarter.
Yeah, so he was running the. I think the Memory of Lucid Dreams is really, really good, especially with the Hyperthread wrist wraps, just because you have that kind of overwhelming damage, and in my opinion, it gives you an extra win condition. It's something your opponent has to, take stock of the entire game, and if they drop the ball even a little bit, you can really overwhelm and pressure the enemy team. So that's why I like the build so much, and I think it's especially good when you're playing Mage Warlock, because all of a sudden Infernal's Dark Soul is a horrifying cooldown you have to deal with, as well as the combustion, and I think those two threats together make it really difficult to deal with Mage Lock.
Now we are going to be moving to Dalaran Sewers as well, and we have our compositions already locked in. Sid, let's talk about how this smaller map is going to come into play in game number 2.
Well, I mean, we Rave you won't be able to drag all the way across 40 yards, and then Lontar doesn't need to move into the open to close that gap on 40 yards. They'll always be in range of a line of sight point. One thing though is this map it's still good, but I don't know if it's necessarily the best cleave map, because the Wizard Cleave can just decide to play on the bottom side, have whoever's being attacked kind of running laps while the Warrior and the Demon Hunter chase them, and then the Destro can play up top, casting freely. I'm very curious to see how we Rave you plays the map. If they don't play it correctly, it could just backfire. They're going to stand much closer to each other because it's just that much more of a condensed map. It's a good pick from Coffin Dance, but I think there are ways for Spell Cleave to play around it.
Yeah, Zico, I feel like, if you are a warrior on this particular map, you very much feel like you don't need to be in a Ferrari to actually connect. You feel like you will be able to have that uptime.
Yeah, definitely. I think, kind of like Sid alluded to, if you are that warrior, you normally don't have the best time. Joe Fernandez, especially on that warrior, lately hasn't had the best time, but on this map, he's going to have a great time. He can leap behind the box if he's about to get crowd controlled or if he's getting focused, and he can, get good uptime here. So definitely not going to be needing that Ferrari for
Well, let's see if this map is enough for Coffin Dance to get a point on the board, or if we're going to see their competition able to get on match point.
Yep, let's see. It looks like the gates have opened up. Joe's going to be moving forward, putting out some pressure on the Mercy early on. And this is what I wonder, on this smaller map, if they're going to go onto the Destruction Warlock just a little bit more. Essia is going to be pushing forward, looking for a Polymorph. The double Mortal Coil comes in as well. Essia gets knocked away. Good defense there by Coffin Dance, denying the Polymorph, and also now getting some counter pressure here onto Deja.
Deja repositioning on the bottom outside portion of the map, so now Merce needs to push forward to the top side of the balcony to free cast, which he does. This holds Joe Fernandez and Trent in an awkward position for Lontar. Does Lontar play in the open on the staircase to the side? He's chosen to, but now Leanne can push forward. He ports away from Leanne. Nice read by Lontar, anticipating that crowd control. Now they set up for a double fear from Joe. Merce decides to break out, pop those Infernals, and start ramping up some big Chaos Bolts in the near future. Already getting 2. Trent immediately retreating from that Combustion Infernal combo. But Leanne had his portal on that box and immediately retakes it for a 6 swap onto Lontar. His Life Cocoon as well as his safeguard will be forced in that, and that's going to be a danger if they're not aware of where Leanne's portal is. And now Tren being blasted. Greater Pyro almost finished channeling. Succubus lands its Seduce onto Lontar. Tren instantly interrupted on his I-beam. He retreats away, but Joe got left behind. Joe's out in midfield. He pops the Spell Reflect. His rally falls. No Life Cocoon. Paralyzed on Lontar, but Vitality Conduit just as good as that Life Cocoon. Going to be healing Joe back up to full.
Yep, Joe will be fine. But in the meantime, he's forced to use an Ice Block. Wow, that burst damage coming in from Coffin Dance. That was a scary moment there for Thesia. No Cauterize, no Ice Block, and that big burst damage. I mean, they have another 4 minutes to try to replicate that. Basically 2 chances with their Drestagath trinkets. And if Leanne doesn't respond appropriately, we could see this mage get absolutely taken out from the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is very nice position to be in as Coffin Dance, Cauterize, and Ice Block. It does leave you with a win condition the next time those Drestagath trinkets are up. I want to see Joe Fernandez and Tren time them at the same moment. Lontar is currently crowd control, so is Tren. Joe Fernandez is all alone. Will Joe Fernandez be able to hold out here in game 2? He activates his Lingering Psychic Shell tank trinket that absorbs a Chaos Bolt and a Greater Pyroblast. A very powerful tank trinket here. Definitely want to be getting one of those on your character on live servers from N'Zoth as soon as possible. Very powerful trinket. Joe easily negates that entire setup with the trinket alone.
Yep, Joe will be able to survive, reflect as well, and that's one of the things. I mean, as that warrior, you have defensive stance, you have spell reflect, as well as a lingering psychic shell. It's a lot of defense, and it can be hard for Mercy and Thesia to actually push through that defense, as well as the Demon Hunter. So the Demon Hunter, the warrior, very durable in this matchup, but the problem is, if we see Thesia and Mercy find a little bit too much damage, then it can be really difficult for Coffin Dance to recover, which is what we saw in the last game on the Grand Arena. So it's all going to be about Lontar trying to avoid interrupts, managing his Life Cocoon, as well as his Vitality Conduit in order to just heal Joe, heal Tren, allow them to have this uptime that they need. Big damage on Thesia, and this is the Dark Soul, this is the Combustion. They're going all in, trying to just reverse the damage. Tren and Joe right now hiding in that cover of darkness, trying to survive, but a beautiful Ring of Peace knocks them out of the safety. Now Lontar caught into a leg sweep. Thesia actually looking for a Greater Pyroblast. He finds one on Lontar. Is he going to be in trouble? He rolls away to safety. And it looks like Coffin Dance will recover all these offensive cooldowns coming in from We Rave You. But still, I mean, Thesia, he's got to be a little bit scared in this situation.
Scary engagement for both sides here in game number 2. Thesia pinned against the wall, but able to blink away to safety. Polymorph and Lontar. There's the reverse magic from Tren. Lontar finally getting out of a full polymorph. Now they're getting aggressive onto Thesia. Leanne could have to pull the trigger on that Life Cocoon sooner than later, and he does, immediately having the Life Cocoon. Now, leg sweep not available for Lontar for 7 seconds. He needs to land a paralyzed leg sweep on Leanne, though, as soon as possible. They got a big opening, but only for another minute and 20 seconds. If Thesia will have another ice block. Leg sweep is now available. Are they going to push for the play? Mercy could play intercept here. He's standing in between Lontar and Leanne. Ring of Peace knocking them away from Thesia. Lontar moves in, but he paralyzes the Warlock, and then he gets seduced, and now there's no crowd control for Leanne. Vitality Conduit activates onto Thesia, rotated with that Life Cocoon. About a 20-second window of time here where they can go after the mage. Will they be able to find a kill? They land a double stun. Leanne perhaps making a mistake there, moving too close to the fight. I guess he wants to go for a stun himself. Triple fear set up by Joe. They really need to win the game with that intimidating shout, but they're just not finding any damage. It's unlikely that their Drestagaths were available. It's very important that their Drestagaths are off cooldown if they're going to find burst damage against this composition. They imprison Leanne, though. Good crowd control chain. Still 30 seconds away from an ice block, but Life Cocoon has now rotated and available. That is going to stabilize Thesia for the moment. Lontar counterspelled. Dark Soul comes up in 3 seconds. Seduce out of the counterspell, perfectly timed by Mercy. They totally isolate Joe Fernandez. Combustion and Dark Soul could be popped at any moment. Are they going to pull the trigger? They're trying to bait cooldowns before doing it, but they're not baiting anything. Joe doesn't fall for it. Lontar's out of crowd control. He should be able to stabilize easily here. Oh, Thesia blinks Joe Fernandez Drestagath. No damage going to be found there. That's very unfortunate. That trinket is going to be single-handedly the way they killed a mage. They can't afford to whiff it.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, the double Drestagath is such an overwhelming amount of damage, and you can really surprise the enemy team with that. And I would say it's one of the main win conditions for Joe and Tren to actually score a kill in this matchup. We're now at 6% dampening as Thesia and Mercy trying to find that damage onto Tren. Keep in mind, Tren was the target to fall in game number 1, putting the first point on the board for Rave with this Mage Warlock Monk composition. This Mage Warlock Monk composition seems like a really strong one. Let's say getting low, that is going to be the Life Cocoon that trades out from Lian. And that's basically what it's going to be. I mean, Joe and Tren slowly need to work through Life Cocoon, slowly need to work through Vitality Conduit, and once they've gotten those 2 defensives from the Mistweaver Monk, that's when they can try to really burst down Thessia. The double Drestigath comes in, but in that sun, Thessia is going to be feeling really durable. He's just stacking versatility, and now reversing the damage onto Tren. He's in a lot of trouble. He trinkets, activates the blur, deactivates the darkness, but they are just pushing through. So many defensive cooldowns traded out by Coffin Dance. The only thing I really see here for Coffin Dance is the fact that Lontar hasn't used any mana. They're at 10% dampening. Lontar, I don't know if he sat down for a drink, but he's at literally 100% mana right now. So that might be able to carry them forward as this game goes on, as Lian is burning through mana quite quickly.
All right, Joe and a Poly, Lontar and a Fear. Tren is isolated, but they stun up Lian. They're trying to push for damage. Good pressure across the board, but a full Polymorph is landed. There's no reverse, there's no blur, there's no dark. Joe is feared away. Tren is all alone. He's going to activate that lingering Psychic Shell trinket, though. And while his team was removed from the fight, that trinket will keep him alive. Such a very important tool for basically every team in the tournament, as it's such a low cooldown. 1 minute ice block, basically, if you've got that. I'm almost wondering if there's going to be some Wizard Cleave mirrors where they even take it as, even if it's a strength or agility trinket, just as a complete immunity to potential Dark Soul damage. It's definitely an important component for Coffin Dance's ability to make it this deep in the game. Thasia dragging Tren and Joe out into the open on the bottom. Is Lontar going to follow Thasia? They stun Thasia. There's the double Drestigath. They try and drop him. Lian, instant reaction time. Life Cocoons Thasia to prevent the kill. But Lontar gets intercepted. Double leg sweep has landed. Chaos Bolts are flying in. Huge pressure onto Tren. Blur activates on 10%. Will it be enough for him to stay alive at 20% dampening? Life Cocoon sweeps in from the side. Lontar gets out of the crowd control just in time.
Yeah, nicely done by Lontar, getting that Life Cocoon and keeping Tren nice and healthy there. He held on for just enough time. 21% dampening. Now Tren, Joe, they're looking to reverse the pressure. Thessia is caught into a Stormbolt. They're going for the damage. Beautiful, intimidating shout, keeping Mercy out of the fight and allowing them more uptime on Thessia. The Cauterize as well as the Ice Block are available, but doesn't want to trade out both. So comfortably goes into the Ice Block, and that's off the back of Joe actually landing a nice pummel, kind of a drive-by pummel onto Lian, preventing him from healing and getting that Ice Block from Thessia. Really well done.
All right, let's see if they can keep it up here. Tren's cooldowns come up pretty soon. They're trying to stay aggressive, but that purple icon, Mercedes Dark Soul, it's available. He could activate it at any moment, and if he lands 2 Chaos Bolts, that's basically a KO. They need to be careful. They want to push for the win. They're so close, but they could just throw the game away in these next couple of seconds. They've been playing it out for 9 minutes. They don't want to throw it away on their map selection. Thasia Temporal shields the incoming damage. He's going to heal back all of that. Mercedes trying to get his Flashpoint Azerite trait active. But there was a Drestigath, but it wasn't double tapped. Only one Drestigath, not nearly as threatening. It does at least force a Life Cocoon. Perhaps when Life Cocoon is over, Tren can go for his Drestigath and win the game with it. He's got Metamorphosis. There's threats on both sides. Mana is even between the teams. They grapple weapon Joe. Lontar rolls over to the staircase. He's line-of-sighting Merce on the bottom side, but he gets rooted by the Conflagrate into a full Fear. Nice crowd control chain by Merce. He locks down the Infernals, goes for another Fear. Seduce in a full Polymorph, double leg. So Tren leaps over for reverse magic on the crowd control, but Joe's in so much trouble. They panic. They overlap down with the sword. They try and push back with all-out aggression. There's the Drestigath from Tren. They need to get a Cauterize with it. They get perfect crowd control onto Lian, imprison into Intimidating Shout. But even with perfect crowd control, they're not going to get the Cauterize. They do finally get the Cauterize from Thasia. Coffin Dance keep themselves in the game thanks to Tren's nice Metamorphosis reverse magic.
Yeah, the reverse magic paying dividends there. Thessia, with no Cauterize, no Ice Block, another double Drestigath attempt here by Joe, and Tren could be absolutely devastating. He's going to have to look out for that. Lian's going to have to find a preemptive Life Cocoon or a beautiful Temporal Shield or what, but Thessia's getting low. Joe accidentally falls off there, missing out on potentially a kill moment in the game on Thessia. But now reconnecting to his target, this mage could be in a lot of trouble. Lian with the Life Cocoon does decide to trade it out, but now there's no safety net. There's no Cauterize, there's no Ice Block, there's no Life Cocoon. Any crowd control on Lian and burst damage on Thessia, this could just be a tied series. We'll have to see if Coffin Dance can find that win condition. Joe still pushing forward, getting that consistent damage for 36% dampening. If we look at mana, Lian is way behind at this point. Seduce, though, Trent could be in some trouble. He's gotten to a stun, into a Shadow Fear, into a leg sweep. Do they have the damage to take him down? Mercy trying everything he can, but there was just no offensive cooldowns. There was no combustion. There was no Dark Soul, no Infernals. They didn't have the damage to take Trend down, although that was a really nice setup. But they have waited and pulled that off and a little bit later in dampening as well with the offensive cooldowns. I think they might have been able to take him down.
All right, Trent, his darkness is available. His Gyre's Medallion is going to line up with the Dark Soul, so Coffin Dance have an out. They should just go all-out aggression. If they fall behind, drop the darkness, recover, and finish the mage. This is the only opportunity I really see for them to be able to win, is all-out aggression with that darkness trade. Although I guess it is Joe that need to be afraid of dying. With no Die by the Sword and no Spell Reflect, he's going to rely on that Rallying Cry. Will it be enough? Vitality Conduit stabilizes him. They have to stay on top of the mage. Dark Soul is available. It's a risky gamble. Once again, Lontar's right on top of Lian. He stuns up the Warlock, but doesn't go for the Paralyze on Lian. Lian repositions. Lian's leg sweep comes up in 5. He could land a double. Mercedes' Mortal Coil was only onto one target. It was diminishing return. Was it just desperation? Now he doesn't have a Mortal Coil. That seems like a bit of a throw, but Infernals have landed. Warbanner gets sniped instantly. Full leg sweep secured. Seduce on the Lontar, but he pre-life cocoons all of that crowd control. Insane reads from all 6 players in this game right now, but Thasia could be in trouble. He gets life cocoon just in the nick of time, but mana is taxed so heavily. Trend's on the run. Dark Soul is up. They have to avoid Mercedes. He shadow melds the Chaos Bolt, negating the damage. If they survive the Dark Souls, they basically win the game. There's no threat for another minute and 30 seconds. Coffin Dance just need to go, 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 and that's exactly what they're doing. Dressing Gas Pop, pushing to get the kill, but now Ice Block is actually up again for Thasia. Vitality Conduit stabilizes him, but Coffin Dance have such a huge mana advantage that they should be able to pull this off with just overwhelming pressure if they can stay on target.
Yep, they just need to stay on target, but one greater Power Blast land. Trent could be in a little bit of trouble. He's still pushing forward. It's kind of do or die. That's getting low. The Ice Block, like you said, rotated back up, and that is going to allow Rave to survive. But Lian, I mean, look at his mana. There's just no gas left in the tank. How is he going to be able to stabilize? He's going to need the Vitality Conduit if he can land it. Stun, though, on Thasia, still slowing down that damage. Trent and Joe, they're looking to find a kill, but Mercy's trying to shut it down. Joe forced to trade the Die by the Sword in order to survive and continue this offensive push. Lian, he's got no mana. He can't top off his team. And it seems like if Joe and Trent, they can continue this assault, it is going to be a win for Coffin Dance. But we'll have to see if Rave can reverse the pressure.
Totally out of mana. Life Cocoon activates. It could be the last Life Cocoon of the game. Lontar rolls up. He crowd controls the Warlock, just trying to make sure that he can safely get to the next box near his teammates. Life Cocoon has been cut through. They still have the Darkness in reverse. They might need to use it here and now. Please, they're so close. If they end up throwing here in these final seconds, it's going to be devastating. The reverse magic from Tren. Life Cocoon connects. Joe stays in the fight, charging towards Thasia. They crowd control the Mistweaver. They need a bit more than just an Imprison. Do they have a stun? They get intercepted by a Shadow Fury. There's the Fear out of the Imprison. This is the exact crowd control chain that Coffin Dance need to finish the game. Drestigath follows up for huge damage. They get right back on target, and they cut Thasia down with the Rising Sun Kick of Lontar. And Coffin Dance tied up 1-1.
And this is a very interesting matchup as well with what we are seeing. So I kind of want to talk to Zico about what the rest of the series really could look like now that we're tied up now, and what we really expect when we see these two comps going head to head.
How was I muted? I literally clicked it. That's not on me.
Oh no.
I clicked it. I actually got a reminder. Don't forget to unmute.
Yeah, it's faulty technology. For sure. All right, so let's start with how these comps actually do go head to head. I think it's a very important thing for everybody at home to hear, because this series looks like it could be the distance. Honestly, I think we could get a game 5. What happens when these two compositions go head to head?
I feel like in this case, the map plays a really big factor. obviously being double melee versus a double caster comp. But on the other end, it's just playing into the win conditions, right? The melee team, they want to do hit and runs, and they want to have enough kind of presence in the middle that the healer on the mage lock side can't just sneak away and drink. And on the flip side, the mage warlock, they want to set up these kills where they sheep, the healer or seduce him, and then they set up a stun onto Tren with, big burst.
Okay, and now let's actually start to highlight some of those moments as well, Zico, that actually led to this series becoming all tied up.
Yeah, so this moment, I just really, really like this play here. It's essentially, it always starts out with Mercy, sorry. No, his full nickname is actually Mercedisa, I think. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's no shots. Anyway, starts off with him landing Seduce, and then they get a Shadow Fury into a double leg sweep, and they usually follow that up with like a Fear or a Polymorph, and that's essentially what the Wizards are trying to do the entirety of the game. Drag out the Demon Hunter, get them both stacked up, him and the Warrior, and then get those double stuns going. So I just wanted to highlight that. That was a really good, kill attempt. But I also want to say on the side of Coffin, they never kind of let their pressure fade away, and they also, responded effectively to these setups. They never overlapped, Trent's cooldowns with Lontar's cooldowns, and that's why they were able to survive for such a long time.
Apparently, I'm echoing, and I just want to say it's because my Echo farm has finally hit its final form. I have become the Echo.
You've become the echoing void.
This is a dream come true. But let's talk just a little bit more about this matchup. Zico, you already alluded to the fact that maps are going to be very important. Ben Rookie, let's talk about that just a little bit more, what the maps are actually going to look like as we keep moving forward in the series.
Basically, the Mage Warlock, they want a map that is large, so they can kind of bait the melee in the open and keep them there for an extended period of time. The problem with a small map like Dalaran Sewers is the melee can easily move in and out of the battlefield. So Joe pushes in, he can get on his target, and if he's in danger, he can easily escape. On a large map, that just doesn't happen the same way. So that's why the caster cleave, they'd like to go to a map that has a lot of space in the open, like Tolvaron Arena, for example. I think is likely where we're going to be going, and yes, that is. I mean, it's a good decision. I think if we see Rave pick up a win on this map, which is probably pretty likely, then I expect a very small map like Hook Point to play in, and that's when the melee cleave will end up securing a win. And I think this is just one of those matchups due to the style of the compositions where we see the team that won on the Grand Arena end up taking the series outside of kind of an upset victory, I would say.
Yeah, we talk about that quite a bit. We talk about that first map. First, we need to set our attention onto Tolvaron. Coffin Dance versus Rave. The gates are about to open.
If Coffin Dance can win this swing match, I mean, it's going to make a statement. This is the best map in the game for Mage Warlocks, so they've definitely got a good strategy. That double Drestagath tap Imprison into Fear on Lian, I think that's going to be their main point of contention. The difficulty is going to be that Lian is going to be so far away from the fight that if Joe leaps over to fear him, he might not actually be able to even get back to the mage to do damage. And that's going to be what Coffin Dance need to figure out. Maybe it's that they kill the Warlock on 12 runs. The Warlock's not going to be able to move nearly as much later into dampening. But again, we're probably going to see Coffin Dance with the standard turtle all day. Wait at the boxes. Maybe not. Joe is giving them a sign of hope. He gets immolated, and then he's like, oh, no, all right. Lontar told me I can't come out to play today. I'm in the boxes. And they're going to be chilling for a bit. Mercedes switching to Fell Hunter this time, choosing not to run the Succubus. Bit interesting there. It's definitely a big threat when you're the Mistweaver. You have to deal with a Warlock interrupt and a Mage interrupt. That's a lot of stress.
I always find it really interesting. Like, I'm curious to see how Coffin Dance decides to play this, because a lot of the time we see these melee cleave, they sit at the pillar, they're feeling comfortable, and then at some point they're like, all right, let's just go, whether it's like a minute or 2 minutes in the game. So I'm curious to see. I mean, right now, Thessia, he's going to be pushing in, kind of forcing their hand. The Infernals drop down. Big damage coming in from We Rave You. One Chaos Bolt lands onto Lontar. Unfortunately, diminishing return. Joe Fernandez now taking a little bit of damage, but with that lingering Psychic Shell, should be more than durable. And it's just, that tank trinket from N'Zoth is just such a good counter to Mercy and Thessia's offensive cooldowns. When you have that available, it is extremely unlikely they're going to be able to push through it. So really good gearing choices here. A buy Coffin dance. The one thing I will say is I feel like We Rave You, they blunder the Mortal Coil quite a bit. I mean, Thessia going for the polymorphs on Joe and Trent, I mean, it's kind of one of those things you have to do, but at the same time, we see Mercy constantly, you know, half DRing, triple DRing the Mortal Coil, and if that was just set up a little bit better, I feel like it would really give them more options in the match for their offensive setups.
All right, Leanne is in that Imprison. This is the crowd control chain I was talking about, but Mercy just roots the Warrior, fears the Demon Hunter, and they weren't able to connect while his Mistweaver couldn't heal, so they're going to be totally intercepted and prevented of really any damage. Joe is going for a split strategy. That is something they could do. You sit one melee onto the mage, one melee onto the demon or onto the warlock, and then you can disrupt both casters and get pressure on 2 places. This is a good way to run the Mistweaver out of mana because the Jade statue is such a huge amount of healing from the Mistweaver, but it can only heal 1 target. So if 2 targets are being damaged, he's going to have to pump heals into 1. Big swap onto Lontar here by We Rave You. Will he survive? Mortal Coil to follow it up, but Life Cocoon connects. And there's no way he's going down through that. Lontar going to go back to the pillar, but Thessia is pulling Joe and Tren very deep into the map. They do get a Drestigath Spine off, forcing a Life Cocoon from Leanne, and that's kind of the story of the match is Drestigath, Life Cocoon, Dark Soul, Lingering Shell, and these cooldowns just trade with each other so efficiently that the game extends deep into dampening to reduce the healing of each of these cooldowns until the trade is now no longer beneficial for the defender's side.
Yep, that's pretty much exactly what happens, and this is kind of interesting because we haven't seen too many compositions work well into the Mage, Warlock, Mistweaver Monk so far. I mean, it's been a composition that's pretty dominant in North America, absolutely, with Cloud9, and I'm kind of wondering if teams are looking at this matchup. I mean, the amount of damage the Mage is taking is quite remarkable, to be honest with you. There's a lot of pressure on the small maps. It looks really good, so I'm kind of wondering if some of the North American teams might adapt this composition, Method Orange in particular. Maybe that could be an answer for Cloud9. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how the series plays out, but definitely going a lot better than I initially expected. Like, the Mage Warlock normally does extremely well into these melee cleaves, but it seems like the Warlock and the Demon Hunter, or sorry, the Warrior and the Demon Hunter are durable enough with the Mistweaver Monk where they can have uptime for a long enough time to really push through, you know, the Temporal Shield, the Life Cocoon, the Vitality Conduit, and slowly but surely get the big cooldowns like the Cauterize and the Ice Block, which is, it's nice to see.
And if you're a Mistweaver at home, you're wondering how they're getting their Life Cocoons down to such a short cooldown. It's a combination of the Chrysalis Honor talent and the Azurite trait Burst of Life. In tandem, you reduce the cooldown of your Life Cocoon by, I believe it's 65 seconds. So over a minute reduction on your Life Cocoon, which was buffed in a recent patch to be basically your entire health absorbed. So a very short cooldown, effectively Divine Shield. Lontar gets caught out in the open, but he has Vitality Conduit available. He activates that on himself. It's stabilizing him for now, but its defense will fade shortly, then activating the Send Vocus T, so he doesn't need to deal with any interrupts, and he will top off. But now Tren is low. Is Tren going to make the trade on that lingering Psychic Shell? He's getting blasted right now by Mercy. Mercy switches off to Succubus after using Seduce to get a Fell Hunter for an interrupt, and he's gone back to that pet swapping strategy we kind of know and love him for.
Yeah, Mercy's still looking to generate pressure for his team, and I mean, if we talk about positioning a little bit, basically any of these wizards that are getting targeted just want to be in the open, so the other wizard can generate as much pressure as possible. So that's why you see Thessia, he's in the open, but the double stun Leanne could be in a little trouble here. They're going after Tren, some big Chaos Bolts land. Leanne, though, getting so low, forced to trade out his Trinket and Gate, and I really like that Joe and Tren are willing to pressure Leanne when he pushes in to get aggressive. Sometimes the Mistweaver Monks can get a little bit too comfortable in the match, and I think kind of putting it to them, pressuring them when they push in. They already got the Trinket out of the way, which is really great to see, and potentially that's an opening a little bit later in the game.
All right, they got the lingering Psychic Shell from Tren just a moment earlier, but Leanne is actually in crowd control, unable to escape. Are they going to get the Cauterize from Thessia? He Frost Novas, he blinks away, activates the Blazing Barrier, absorbs some hits just in time for Leanne. to get back into the fight. However, he's still quite behind, pumping out some Vivifies in the near future. Actually just choosing to heal efficiently with only the Soothing Mist, grapple weapon on the warrior to stop damage. Lian did ultimately lose the last game on mana. However, here on Tolvaron, he can move and drink a lot more easily, which he already is. Rolling back behind the pillar. Nobody is stopping him. Lone Tar gets intercepted. Lone Tar's right there on the side. He wanted to stop this drink so bad, but Mercedes Succubus catches him, and now Lian moves in for a leg sweep, and Lone Tar is suddenly in trouble. He just wanted to stop the drink, man. Now he has to break out in Life Cocoon to stay alive. He doesn't stop the drink, and it costs him some valuable cooldowns. Devastating moment for Coffin Dance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit scary, but at the same time, you're really never that sad if for Dark Soul and Combustion you trade a Life Cocoon. I mean, that's a pretty reasonable trade, so I think Lone Tar is going to be feeling relatively safe. Polymorph now on Lone Tar, double Dragon's Breath coming in. Joe Fernandez going to be taking some heat here as Mercy, putting out some big pressure on the Destruction Warlock. Greater Power Blast potentially could go through here as well. It's just really difficult. I mean, the thing is with Tren and Joe all over Thessia, him finding the Greater Power Blast is pretty unlikely, and they've been on point stopping it, you know, with stuns and interrupts. But more so than anything, it forces Joe and Tren to pay attention to that the entire game. And as they're paying attention to that, that's when Mercy can really try to amp up his damage and find big one-shots with Chaos Bolt, and then try to, you know, get that instant burst damage off to assist Mercy. That's basically the main name of the game here for Thessia in this matchup, as you have 2 melee on you as a mage. It's not really your responsibility to be pushing in for crowd control or getting out most of the damage. It's mostly just survive, and when you have your cooldowns, you have your instant damage, that's when you can try to assist your Warlock to actually go for a takedown.
Drestigath over on Athasia, and Tren and Joe are splitting them up. That Drestigath got a Life Cocoon, and then Tren's going to try and go for his after the shield is over in the near future and try and get a kill with it. So they're not going that all-in double tap spines from the ground, try and burst the mage down. They're splitting the resources a bit here into dampening. If they'd stopped that drink earlier, they may have had a significant advantage at this point, but they don't. Lian should be able to power through here. Vitality Conduit, Merce moving away, doesn't want to stand on top of the mage and get cleaved. Took a bit of deep wounds damage from Joe Fernandez's Blade Storm. Lian caught in crowd control. Good execution here from Coffin Dance. They get his Gladiator's Medallion. However, they're chasing the mage out into midfield, and Lone Tar has to roll out to help them. He paralyzes the Warlock to try and stop crowd control and get back to this pillar. I do like the usage of that Paralyze now for Lone Tar to reposition. He didn't get intercepted. If he had, they could have activated Dark Soul Combustion, potentially just closed the game out at that moment. Lone Tar once again in a tough spot. Does he move out in midfield? He Ring of Pieces the Fear. He rolls away from the Warlock. Tren jumps on top of Lone Tar. Why does he not just reverse this? I thought for sure he was going to reverse the Polymorph there. He doesn't reverse it. Now Lone Tar gets caught in a stun lock. They pop the double tap on that Dark Soul and Combustion. Lone Tar is at the pillar, but he gets Blink counterspelled. Lucid Dream Combustion might just finish him. Will he stay alive? He Desperation stuns the Infernal, and that could just kill him. Darkness on 1%. Will he die to the Ignite dot ticks here? Crackling Jade Lightning coming in. Darkness from Tren saves him for now, but the next time that rolls around, I don't know. That was a little bit too close for comfort.
That was a really nice counterspell. I mean, Lone Tar was pretty safe in that situation, but the Blink counterspell, the Shimmer counterspell with the Combustion still rolling. Lone Tar was honestly a little bit lucky to survive there. I mean, if that had just gone a little bit different, a little bit more damage, it would have been 2-1 for We Rave You. So Lone Tar going to have to be careful there. But big damage now on the Thessia. The Drestigath trinkets come in once again, and they net an ice block, which is huge for their team. Now all of a sudden, Thessia, he can't be feeling too safe. Lone Tar with mana, this is the worst we've seen it in this series so far, so he might have to sit down and go for a drink at some point. Tren and Joe, they're going to keep continuing to push this assault onto Thessia. They're doing so much damage onto him. Now looking for a Greater Power Blast. He manages to find one onto Lone Tar, it looks like. Lone Tar getting out of line of sight should be completely fine. Thessia now once again with the Temporal Shield. This could be his Cauterize if he's not careful. Imprisonment onto Lian. Thessia gets the Vitality Conduit. That's more than enough to keep him alive at this point in the game. And at 33% dampening, sparks are going to start really flying here in this match, Sid.
Yeah, I mean, Confidence have kept themselves in the game, getting that ice block from Thessia. Very important on Tolvaron. I feel like that's almost a feat of strength achievement to get an ice block on this map as this particular composition. But double Shadow Fury from Merce, making a scary situation. Lingering Psychic Shell going to activate from Joe Fernandez. soak up some of the hits, but that was right before the Dark Soul combustion. Joe could be a target here. No darkness to save the team either from Trend for another minute. He's feared off into the distance. Lontar's positioning has been great on this map. It's so difficult to navigate when you have to deal with that Warlock constantly trying to intercept you. But that Succubus is chasing him behind a pillar. Is that Succubus going to land a Seduce on a Lontar? In the near future, it's what he's got to get ready for. He may even have to use his leg sweep to interrupt Seduce. They're just waiting, biding their time. Actually still on the defensive. The Cauterize has been triggered from that Drestigath right before the Life Cocoon. Confident stay in the game, but the Succubus lands the Seduce. Double Mortal Coil. Lian has leg sweep. Is he going to roll up for it? He doesn't want to walk into crowd control, but they really need the stun here. Joe leaps across the universe to chase the mage. Very bold decision by Joe. Lontar backs him up now with the Life Cocoon. They know it's do or die, but Lontar gets intercepted. Lian ports on top of him, stun locking him. Thasia has to be desperation imprisoned. They're desperate. Will Lontar survive? They're actually so close to killing the mage at this point. If he doesn't go down, triple stun and off the side by Mercedes. Joe's recklessness is paying off. He's charging forward, but his healer's interrupted. Is he going to be able to get away with it for how much longer?
I mean, we'll definitely have to see. Time is definitely ticking down for both of these teams. That's in a little bit of trouble. Life Cocoon rotating back up for Lian. 43% dampening, now caught into a stun. If Joe and Trend can get on target, they're going to be doing a lot of damage. I mean, I'm just looking at Trend's build. He's playing a ton of gushing wounds, and you can tell. I mean, I really feel like they need to be punishing Trend as much as they can in this matchup, but it's really difficult to do. The Demon Hunter is exceptionally tanky, and as a result, he can run all of those gushings, and that's why you're seeing this immense pressure. Life Cocoon does land, but now with the beautiful Seduce, Joe could actually be in a little bit of trouble. We might need to see a darkness, something here to keep Joe alive. He's got 3 seconds on that Sparrow Fleck. He doesn't want to wait to get too low. 1 Chaos Bolt lands, a second. Life Cocoon from Lontar keeps him in the fight, and now they're going to be continuing to push to try to take down Thesia in this match. And I feel like if Coffin Dance, they win this game, that is a huge statement. I mean, that's the swing match. All of a sudden, things are looking good for them, even on the largest map in the pool, and that is it. The double Drestigath, Coffin Dance, come back in this series, winning the swing match, and all of a sudden, it looks like this cleave setup coming in from Coffin Dance could win this series.
Wow, let's actually talk about that just a little bit more. Obviously, we talked about how the format comes into play, and talked about a thing that we always refer to as the first map advantage, if you are able to win the blind pick. But let's dig a little bit deeper into that. Zico, for anyone who's not familiar with what essentially is going on with this back and forth, what actually does happen in a series like this, if you were going to discuss it amongst your friends and peers in a completely unmuted environment?
Check. Oh, we're good. Yeah, so the format is this. Essentially, first game is going to be a blind pick. Neither team knows what comp or talents or anything that the other team is running. It will be played on Nagrand Arena because it's kind of a neutral map. It doesn't favor wizards too much, doesn't favor melees too much. Whoever loses that first game then gets to select what map you will play on, and the winner has to lock in their comp and show what comp they're going to run, and then the loser locks in their comp, effectively giving them a chance to counter it. So if you win game number 1 and you lose game number 2, and you win game number 3, you lose game number 4, in game number 5, when it's 2-2 and everything is on the line, you're gonna have that map and comp advantage. So the fact that Coffin Dance won here on a map that they're supposed to lose on is gonna give them that advantage if the series stretches on to a game 5. We're probably gonna go to Ashermains now, and it's gonna be tough for them to win there. But if they lose there, it doesn't matter too much. Okay,
yeah. Sid, what do you actually think is going to happen when we do get to the next map?
We could, I mean, what are their options, right? Like, Warlock Warrior? I mean, it could do all right into Demon Hunter Warrior. If they wanted to bring Nerd Rage off the bench. And then Mercedes also plays Death Knight, I believe. But I feel like you don't want to be Death Knight Warrior into Demon Hunter Warrior. In particular, but I don't think they're going to make any changes. I don't know, it's so surprising. We've seen Mage Warlock just like dominating these melee cleaves, but we haven't seen a top-notch Demon Hunter Warrior, I feel like. I'm trying to think. We see like Fury Warrior Windwalker, but we never see the Demon Hunter Warrior, which is looking solid from Coffin Dance. Now that Trent's got that reverse magic on his bar, it's looking a little bit better for them. I'm almost wondering if they could have won game 1 if they had been using reverse magic in that particular match. So I like that they know that they need to get back on the mage to win. They're not spending too much time just sitting at the pillar waiting, and they're using defensive cooldowns to stay on top of the mage rather than using them reactively to stay alive. Like, Lone Tar will just live cocoon Joe when he leaps on top of the mage, because he knows as soon as Joe leaps, he's going to be taking a ton of damage, and then Joe can sit in battle and do a ton of damage. And then they rely on the darkness as they're all in. If they know that, okay, this could go not our way, but we have darkness to fall back on, that's when they just start running at the mage nonstop. They'll just keep pushing the mage, and they get a kill. I mean, that's how they're able to win on these big maps, is just by continuously going after him and using these cooldowns to just stay aggressive.
I gotta say, Zico, you called it perfectly. Ashmane's Fall is going to be the next map as well. Are there any other predictions that you would like to throw out here before we actually do get into this game? We're also still waiting for Rave to be locking in their composition.
We're going to Game 5. Game 5 will be played on Ruins of Lordaeron, a fitting final resting place. Hashtag Super Tees.
Wait, even after that swing?
Dance is going to win. Coffin Dance is going to win.
Even after that surprise win on the last map, you still think we're going all the way to Game 5?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a cleaner gameplay from We Rave You. They're going to, play up some of those loose ends, take us to Game 5. And I don't think Ruin is the best map to play Game 5 on, compared to like Blade's Edge, for example. But I think they're going to lock it in for the memes.
Okay, all right. Very, very bold claim coming out there, as we do see the Warlock and the Mage locked in again. Now, I know that Thessia Zico was one of those people that you really wanted to put on the microscope. This is a player that we've seen perform, whether it's been on streams, whether it's been on the ladder, but who's the MVP been for you thus far in this series? I know a lot of the people are definitely cheering Joe on, but is there one person who has started to claim that MVP so far with Coffin Dance versus We Rave You?
On both sides?
On either, yeah.
It's hard to say. I feel like on the side of Coffin Dance, they're all playing pretty well together as a team. They're pushing in together and they're pushing out together, or pulling out together. And then you got on We Rave You, I want to say Leanne is playing, he's always been a solid monk, so it's not a real surprise there. Mercy, with his pet swapping strategy, is pretty interesting. But, I got to be biased towards Stasia. I feel like landing that Blink counterspell last game easily could have just secured them the game. I saw multiple temporal shields when his healer didn't have Cocoon, and they were, Coffin Dance were doing a go, and he was able to survive because of that. So, it's got to go to, I think Tessia.
Okay, well, let's see if Tessia is going to be able to help We Rave You get back into this one, stay in this one, all the way to Game 5, or is Coffin Dance going to be playing the song that they named their team after for their opponents?
We'll definitely find out. Tren pushing forward once again, and for Tren and Joe, it's all about just whittle down the mage slowly but surely, find the Drestagath burst damage, and that's when you'll be able to really push through. Here it is once again. That's a beautiful temporal shield and combustion to try to get some counter pressure. Preemptive life cocoon coming in from Lone Tar, as it looks like We Rave You. They want to get really aggressive. Lone Tar could be in some trouble. He uses his Transcendence to escape, using the Revival as well to clear off all the Ignite damage from Thessia. That Revival is really strong into Combustion, especially the Memory of Lucid Dreams Combustion, because you just have so much damage. With the Mastery, it's spreading Ignite everywhere, putting out a ton of damage, and Revival just completely counters it, removing all the Ignite and basically completely freezing the damage.
All right, Tren getting blasted here in the early exchange, but with Metamorphosis, he does increased healing to himself when he attacks, so he's basically self-sustaining along with that statue of Lone Tar. Not going to be getting too much pressure onto him this early in the match. Definitely going to be favoring Coffin Dance right now, while Mercy does not have Dark Soul and Thasia doesn't have Combustion. Coffin Dance really need to maximize their uptime, and they are staying right on top of Thasia. Lone Tar needs to do a good job once again of crossing the map safely. Currently getting feared into Paralyze isn't exactly safe. Now into a leg sweep. They're still hammering down on Tren instead of Joe, though, in this match. Bit peculiar. Let's see if it ends up working out for them. Tren gonna duck around the corner at the pillar, wait for his healer Lone Tar to get out of crowd control and begin to stabilize him. We Rave You gonna switch targets, actually just hitting anyone that's in their line of sight. It looks like Coffin Dance are switching to the Warlock. They've realized that attacking the closest wizard might be a better option, and they net themselves a life cocoon onto the Warlock. Mercedes is also not running, I believe, full versatility. He's running like a mixed build. He's running a little... Actually, wait a minute. I'm looking at this a second time. He changed his build for the final game. He went full haste mastery with mastery amps. Mercedes actually built his character to do an insane amount of damage, but he will also take a lot of damage. So if Coffin Dance feel that out and notice that he's a little bit softer than the other games, they might find that as a win condition.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and I think that's one of those things with how much customization of when you have of your character right now. You can build yourself really tanky, you can build yourself really bursty, and if you can take advantage of the gearing of your opponent, it can definitely work out for you. But Mercy probably not going to be a target until a little bit later on in the game. Can't leave Thessia alone for too long. Full Fear now coming in from Joe Fernandez as he's looking to get some damage rolling on Thessia, and here it is, the combustion once again is Joe spinning all over Thessia, trying to just avoid the damage. Tren runs away, actually stopping, I believe, the Seduce, trying to just slow down some of that crowd control, but Mercy just spamming out the Chaos Bolts. These Chaos Bolts are hitting huge. Tren once again forced to run away. Thessia in the midfield right now gets pummeled, and Joe leaps away to safety as well. Lontar saying, hey, I don't have that many defensive cooldowns. I need you guys to pull out so we can top off, be safe, and this is looking like it's going to be a complete reset. Right now, we Rave you. They don't want to push behind the pillar, and Coffin Dance, they're having fun behind the pillar. They're very comfortable out of line of sight of the Destro, of the Fire Mage, and that's going to allow them just a moment to breathe and kind of re-strategize.
Yeah, but Lian also resets his mana. I feel like Lian's mana has been the main point of defeat for their team. We see Looney actually often running mana regeneration main essences with Lucid Dreams, and then running double mana regeneration trinkets. It seems like potentially that should be something Lian considers as well, running the Insignia and only the Obsidian Claw at the moment for mana regeneration, because Looney was suffering from the same problems in other games where he was running out of mana and losing because of it. But double Ring of Frost lands, Joe Bladestorm's out of it. He war banners the leg sweep. Beautiful war banner there from Joe. Leg sweep only 2 seconds long instead of 4, so not going to be getting nearly as much damage onto Lontar as he repositions on the box, and they are trying to punish Mercedes for that build he's running with the full haste mastery. They get a life cocoon and they go back to the pillar. It's like, all right, that's what we wanted. That's enough for us right now. We'll take a break. We'll take 5 and we'll be back, Mercedes.
Take 45 until life cocoon's off cooldown once again. But Thessia, of course, with that Ring of Frost, he's been able to set up his team nicely, and I think that's the scary thing. But it looks like Joe and Trent, they're going to be changing their target right now, going after Mercy in the match. And now, I mean, he's a bit of a vulnerability here. There's a big damage coming in from Joe and Tren. Could be in some trouble. The Vitality Conduit bounces his health back up to full, but I mean, this damage is absolutely insane. Pre-dampening. Thessia looking to reverse the damage, though, with a combustion of his own, putting out big pressure on Tren, on Joe, forcing them to kind of retreat. Tren is going to be attacking Thessia as kind of a defensive maneuver, just to slow down some of that damage and try to deny that combustion. One Greater Power Blast being fired in. Joe Fernandez, no Spell Reflect available just yet. Now actually comes up, so he can get the Spell Reflect if he needs to, but it seems like Lontar has the situation under control. Another Greater Power Blast lands. This is a problem. If you go on Mercy for too long, Thessia, if he can sneak in, 1, 2 Greater Power Blast, that can be enough to just completely close out the game. So that's kind of the risk you run going after the Warlock over the Fire Mage.
Nice fell rush from Tren, jumping through Mercedes, interrupting the Chaos Bolt with positioning. Jumping back for a moment out of the Ring of Frost, trying to line of sight the Greater Pyros. And now a stun onto Thasia. Very important that they crowd control the mage if they're going to leave him open. These Greater Pyros are going to be threatening. Can they continue to stop him? Mercedes stunned up. They're pushing to get Unending Resolve, but Double Mortal Coil stalls it for now. Mercedes now has to reposition away from Lontar's pillar, which he is doing. Needs to be a little bit further back. He's making his way. And then if Lontar rolls out in midfield, Thasia needs to intercept him, but Tren stops him with that Imprison. Huge damage on Mercedes, but Life Cocoon is now available again. Mana going to be an issue for Lian. He's at 50%, about 10% dampening. They already lost on their best map. Mercedes, I believe, just got desperate and went full damage this time around as opposed to the versatility to try and help carry the team. Coffin Dance have now realized that he's running full damage and not versatility, and they're immediately going after him, and it's looking very threatening for this Warlock. Thasia has to basically carry this game by himself. He needs to get crowd control on Lontar. He needs to land Greater Pyro Blasts, but Coffin are doing a great job of not only attacking the Warlock and getting cooldowns, but also interrupting Thasia at the same time. He just got disrupted by Trent, paralyzed by Lontar. Lian's now into full fear. Merce is down at half health. He Mortal Coils desperately. He gets polys onto the DPS. He fears them away. He drops an Infernal proc, waiting to pull the trigger. Gets interrupted though. Lian moves in for a leg sweep. Warbanner gets dropped, but it was 1 second too late. Not going to hit the leg sweep. Either way, not enough damage. Lian now in prison. Merce could be in trouble. Tren jumps over, trying to get a ton of damage out. Merce drops the Infernals to intercept. Lontar rolls out into midfield. I think he wanted to get a leg sweep, but he actually just rolls into a poly. It was on diminishing return. Same thing for the Seduce. This is actually great for Lontar. He sits through a ton of crowd control for free, and now his team should feel open to continue pushing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mercy is getting bursted down. I mean, look at Lian's mana. It is not doing well right now, having to heal through all this cleave damage, all the gushing wounds Tren has available. Mercy is really struggling, and Lian has the hard choice or the hard task of actually keeping him alive in the match. Unending Resolve gets traded out, and that's perfect. At this point in dampening, that's exactly when you want that cooldown used. So Lontar, Joe, and Tren, they got to be feeling really good and confident about this matchup. They just have to watch out for the combustion, and I honestly think they're going to take away this game. If they don't win this, it could be a little bit of a throw at this point. They just need to play well defensively, which they have been, and make sure they don't get greater power blasted, more than once in the match. Because at that point, you can instantly get taken away. But I think if Tren and Joe can stay on target, they can easily take down Mercy, stun on Lian, into an imprison, but he gets the life cocoon. But once that life cocoon fades, I mean, there's no real defense left here for Mercy.
Oh, greater power blast, one in the sky, second one gets paralyzed. I really like the crowd control allocation from Coffin Dance, realizing we don't really need to crowd control Lian that much. It's better to use Paralyze on the target we're not hitting, which in this case is the Mage, to slow down his Greater Pyroblast and his Polymorphs. Doesn't look like Lontar has a Dispel. Joe's sitting at full Polymorph. It's a bit devastating. Now he's seduced. Tren jumps back, but he doesn't have Reverse for a couple of seconds, so does manage to just interrupt the Succubus, though, with the Disrupt. And now Merce is taking a ton of damage. If they can just stop these Greater Pyros and stay on target, Lian has burned basically all of his mana. Double stun combo here between Joe and Tren. They're pushing for the kill. Now at 25% dampening, can they close the game out? There's still the threat of the Dark Soul, but they have Darkness to immune themselves to the damage. They should just go, stay on top of the Warlock and finish this game out. They're going to cut through that Life Cocoon like butter. Lian now paralyzed. Good adaptation by Lontar, switching that crowd control over to the healer. This deep into dampening while they try to push for the win. Combustion gets dropped. He gets feared on Combustion. Thasia just ice blocks the fear. They imprison Merce at low health. Can they finish him here? They've denied Dark Soul. Drestigas are being dropped. Big pressure. They're desperate. They disarm the warrior, but Tren might just solo carry in the next couple of seconds. Lian has absolutely no mana left, and Joe goes into battle stance, closing this one out. Coffin Dance, dance all over. We rave you 3-1. And what did I learn from this game? Don't build your character to do damage. Build your character